Hello and welcome to Veggie Patch Ideas. Today it's all about the heated mat, the heated propagator and even a heated tray. So don't skip away from this one because I'm going to show you everything you need to know in one quick bite-sized video. Sounds like fun? I know it does. Right, so first of all, the heated propagator or mat. It's just an area to keep the soil temperature at a stable temperature, and we need it at a stable temperature, mainly over 20 degrees. Let's say, for argument's sake, to keep things simple, over 20 degrees, and it just heats that soil and it just helps that seedling just break out of the top of the seal. So it needs to germinate, and that's the ideal temperature. Now you can put them on without a lid, but we want a moist consistency to our soil. We don't want it wet, we don't want it dry, we want it nice and moist. That's why we put a lid on there as well. Keeping it moist, keeping it at a stable temperature will drive through and make that germination a whole lot faster. So we'll show you what I've got at home, and it's very simple. I only feed a family of 4. And if you deduct the kids, it's probably me and my missus. Let's face it, they don't eat hardly any vegetables, but we are trying to train them in the art of a vegetable. Now let's face it, heat mats have only been around for around 50 years, give or take. And we've been sowing vegetables and growing vegetables for thousands of years. So if we got away with it before, we can do it now. And let's just take a minute and think about germination temperatures, because this is what the key to everyone's success is. And it's very, very simple. Let's take the 3 seeds I've sown in the last episode. And if you haven't seen it, why not? You need to go back and check it out. So we've got chilies, aubergines, eggplants and bell peppers. Now for chilies, the germination temperature, the minimum germination temperature for all of these is 16 degrees or 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I hope alarm bells are ringing off in your head thinking, well, that's not that hot, I could get away with it at home. Yes, the optimal temperature for growing these vegetables. So chilies, it's 23 degrees to 30 degrees, which is 73 to 86. Aubergines, eggplants, 24 to 32, that's around 75 to 90 Fahrenheit. And at the end we've got bell peppers, and they're a little lower, so they're 18 to 35, which is 64 to around 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to put it on a chart, probably here, so you can see and you can get a good understanding of where we're going. So what's the difference in temperature got to do with anything? Well, it's time. So it takes around 7 to 10 days on optimal temperature and 14 to 20 days at the lower temperature. So it just stretches that out just that little bit longer. So do you even need a heated tray or mat? Well, the answer is yes and no really, and bear with me on this one. Yes, if you are producing a lot of seedlings to grow a lot of vegetables, which if you're watching this, you probably do, and sowing seeds and gardening is your absolute passion, because I know it is mine. But if you're only sowing a few vegetables, like if you want to start a few chilies or peppers off early, there are alternative methods to doing it, and I'm going to show you how to do it, so don't worry. But yes, we'll need a heated mat just to get those through and germinated. And once they are germinated, they can come off the heat straight away. So as soon as you've got seedlings coming up, take them out of the propagators, off the heated mat, and then under lights or on a very sunny windowsill, and that will just get them going. We're in January now and we are very, very early. We can get this done in February to March. March, it's hit and miss if we need a mat, because our houses are normally warm enough to do it. But let me show you what you can do if you haven't got a heated tray and want to start something off now. So let's go back to the house, see what I've got cooking, and see these DIY propagators or heated trays that you can get away with in your home. And so here we are at home, and here's my heated propagator, and it's a very simple thing. It's just a container with a lid on, and it has a vent which I leave half open, and this is very cheap to run. It runs at 8.4 watts, and we'll take a look at the plug. And as you can see, it's all I have, but you can do the DIY version, which I'll show you how to do now. The alternatives is you can get a small seedling tray like this, and it has that lid to keep the moisture in. You just pop it on, and this is a perfect size to put on a double radiator. So you could just pop it on in the hottest room of the house, and hopefully that radiator will germinate. And that's exactly what I'm doing, by the way, on some extra chili seeds. Now, if we want that DIY version, if your house is very, very cold, you could always try putting your little seed tray or your big seed tray on top of, believe it or not, your normal hot water bottle, and this will stay warm for a good few hours, and it'll give you that little bit of stable temperature. And every time you make a cup of tea, you could replace the heat. But if we put our little tray on here, and for the first couple of days when germination starts, we don't need light, so we just need heat. So what we could do, we could cover this up and let that cook away in there for a few days. Bring the heat, get the heat into those chili peppers, and we haven't bought a propagator. Now, other things we can use are things like hot beds. So where you put a load of manure, fresh manure, into one place, generally a polytunnel or greenhouse, make sides to it, and the heat, as it composts down, you can sow seeds on top of that. It's not one for me, because normally creating a very hot place inside of a polytunnel, it just draws in those mice and the rats. So you solve one problem, but then have to deal with a completely different one. So hotbeds aren't for me in that respect. I'll either go down the route of my heated propagator, which I love, and it does the job, radiators, sunny windowsills, and if all else fails and you're in that cold environment, give this a go. It's just for fun, and it's that DIY hotbed that it's just thinking outside the box. So let's sit this cooking for a few minutes, and I'll get my heat gun and we'll see what sort of temperatures we can get out of this bad boy. So here we go, we've got our heat gun, and we'll give her a little scan. And putting it on the pot, it's 25 degrees. Now it does vary. On the bottom by the heated hot water bottle, clearly it's around 30 degrees. You move up to the top of the pot, it was reading 19.5. Somewhere in the middle was 24, but this has just been put under there. So in a few hours, this will heat up really nice, really warm, and get that germination going. And if you did watch the last episode, had a disaster, and here's what happened. So as you can see, I left the seeds in the polytunnel overnight, and it happened. It was an absolute disaster. Though, well, we had a visit, and it was by those little furry creatures, little mice, and they have dug in and they've taken every seed. And the way to spot this, and I'm glad it's happened now, just so I could show you, they come in and they dig up little holes in the seed tray, and I've got a close-up on this, so we'll zoom in and show you. But basically, they take the seeds out of the soil and they leave the soil somewhat undisturbed, but you can definitely tell they've been have been through every seed tray. So it's just a case of chucking this soil out, re-sowing and starting again. But I've caught it early and it's a great lesson. And if you are in a polytunnel, you do have to expect this, or a greenhouse. I had checked and I seal all my doors very tight so nothing can get in, not even a slug. But what I've found is it's gone under the slab on the outside and in, up through a very small gap in the side. I couldn't see it, and normally you can definitely tell because there's a little round hole if they are nesting in your polytunnel, and it'll be around an inch wide. You can see it clearly because it will be on the soil, and you'll probably see them pushing up the soil behind it. Now that didn't happen here. I thought this was a safe space. Think again. So I'll get these re-sown and back onto the heated mat in the house. Lesson learnt, don't leave it overnight without putting that cover on if we do want these to germinate. Guys, as always, thanks for watching, and please think about subscribing if you want help through that growing season. We'll take you step by step all the way, and we'll see you on the next one.